Richard Skipper celebrates. Every show is a celebration. Each show, Richard delivers the artists you love, showcasing what makes them unique. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. It's March, it's Cabaret month, and that means St. Patrick's Day is on the horizon, and my sister's birthday, Liza Minnelli's birthday. There's a lot to celebrate this month, but we are celebrating the world of cabaret. And throughout this month, I have some of my favorite entertainers and organizations where we're going to talk about all things cabaret. And what better way to start than with Jeff Harner today? Let me give you a little history. Cabaret Month began in 2008. Interestingly enough, I thought it was much earlier than that. Our dear friend, Stu Hamstra, he was behind this organization, getting that proclamation for the mayor and putting it out there. But before we go there, I want to talk about our guest for a moment. He has 4 BroadwayWorld Awards for male vocalist, 4 MAC Awards as entertainer, 5 Bistro Awards, a Donald Smith Award, 4 awards as director through BroadwayWorld, 2 MAC Awards as director, and 1 Bistro Award. Jeff Harner is the Holy Grail. He is that gauge by which all of us put our star. And before I bring him on, I'd like to celebrate Jeff Harner through Jeff Harner's own words and actions.
The night is young, the skies are clear, and if you want to go walking, dear, it's delightful, it's delicious, it's de-lovely. I fall in love too easily. I fall in love too fast. I fall in love too terribly hard for love to ever last. Your moonlight on a night in Capri, and Cape Cod looking out at the sea. You're all places that leave me breathless, and no wonder you're all the world to me. And I'm about to give birth to the sweetest thing on earth. When the wind and the weather blow your dreams sky high, sail away, sail away. Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. The profession's overcrowded and the struggle's pretty tough. And admitting the fact she's burning to act, that isn't quite enough. I pick myself up and get back in the race. Back in the race. And sometimes a friend starts treating you bad, but the world goes around. It's the big finish. It's
And you truly are the lovely yellow today to bring the sunshine to the world. I am so thrilled that you're here today. Before we start looking, there's something is squeaking where you are, so it may be your speaker maybe a little too high or something. I
don't know. Maybe I have a space heater on. I'll try turning that on. Wow.
So
that any better?
anyway, that's better. We right now, I don't want to start on a negative note, but it has been 354 days since our theaters shut down. And of course, that means cabaret and all performing venues across the country. Before we delve into your past, I want to ask, how are you doing, really, in the midst of all this?
I am doing really well. I just have to say, I am aware there's a lot of suffering going on in the world. I'm very grateful at this time in my life. I'm sober. I celebrated 10 years of sobriety in January.
Congratulations.
And thank you. It couldn't be a better time to be sober, let me tell you, because the whole core of sobriety is staying grateful. And as long as I start my day thinking of 10 things that I'm grateful for, I know that I'm taken care of today, and that I will be taken care of, and that I can sustain myself through whatever the weather may bring. So it's different. But anything we resist gets worse. So I've just tried to practice acceptance and, making it up as we go along. I've certainly spent more time in front of this computer in this apartment than ever before in my life. But, it's, there have been some wonderful things that have come out of the challenges of these times.
Well, I have to say, first of all, thank you so much for your honesty and, for letting everyone know about this. I had no idea, and I've known you a long time. And quite frankly, I don't know where you had the time because you're always working.
The time to do what?
To drink. Yes.
Because
you're always working.
Drinking's for amateurs.
Well, we're not going to go there. So when the pandemic hit, what did your calendar look like this time last year?
Oh, well, I was that week I was opening our Sandra Lee and John Weber and I put together my first solo Sondheim show, and we were opening to a full house at 54 Below. And that was the first thing to go off the calendar. But again, I was really lucky because John Weber and I got to go do the show the January before in London. So we had actually at least gotten the gift of birthing it. Now it's gone back into gestation. So it's, but now I think the fourth date they've postponed it to will be November 10th, 2021. So we're hoping at 54 Below.
Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you, how are you keeping creative during this time frame? I mean, you said that you spent a lot of time in front of the computer. Are you directing virtually, or
yes.
You do a lot of directing?
I am directing virtually, but the biggest gift that has come my way in this pandemic is Tova Feldshuh writing her memoir, Lilyville, and she has taken me on as part of her creative team. So I think we would not have done it in any other way than on Zoom, because the way it works with Google Docs and sharing the screens and all that, she has her assistant in one computer, I'm there and she's there. So that happened in July of last year that she brought me on board, and the book will be published in April. Mm-hmm. And it's been a masterclass in, because this is like starting at the top, a celebrity memoir, and it's coming out on Hachette. And it's getting the full book launch, and it has gone through so much editing. I don't mean her work, but just the process. First the editor reading it, then the copy editor reading it, then the proofreader reading it, and each time we're going back and trying to implement changes, and it's just fascinating.
Well, do you feel that your work as a director has really helped you in this department?
Yes. I would call myself her director on this project. It's absolutely what I'm doing. It's her voice. And just like, I've had the gift of directing her in two of her shows, Aging is Optional, and Tova is Leona. She played Leona Helmsley. And so this is very much just the same role. I'm just a guide who's there to tell her when she's on pitch and when she's a little tone deaf. she is the most remarkable person to be tethered to during a pandemic, because she's an unstoppable force of nature.
I've had the good fortune to be able to read the book because she sent me an advance copy, and it's phenomenal. And I mean, just her depth of openness in sharing her story with her mom, and growing up at her daughter and other roles that she's played. So it's something that I'm very much looking forward to. I want to talk about your early beginnings. I have this great photo that you shared with me. This is you at 5 years old. I want to know a little bit about that little boy. You grew up in California. Am I correct?
You are not. No, I was born in Manhattan Beach, California. It was the wrong Manhattan.
Okay.
I worked all my life to get over to this coast. No, my family moved 5 times while I was growing up. So even though I was born in California, before I was even 2, we had moved to Michigan, and then we moved to Connecticut. So my dad, he was with Ford Motor Company, and we moved to Connecticut so he could be part of the 1965 World's Fair, 64, 65. So that was the most spectacular way to come to New York, to be the son of a man who went to work at the World's Fair every day. He was in PR, which has also served me very well, because I've always appreciated the value of the press, and what the gift of having a column inch dedicated to you. And then we moved from Connecticut to Chicago, and that's where I started working when I was 10. I started doing TV jingles. I had all my union cards when I was 10. And my career was flourished when I was a soprano. And it's been uphill ever since.
And you went to a school with Ann Hampton Callaway and Liz. You knew them from, is that right?
Yes, I sure did.
And
more than just knew them. We were really dear friends. We would go after school. Shirley Callaway, who a lot of New Yorkers know as the wonderful vocal teacher that she was, bless her soul. She would have us at the piano singing songs when she got home from her day job, which was with the Chicago Symphony Choir at that time. And, Anne, of course, played the piano beautifully. And Liz and Anne, they were phenomenal talents, even at those early ages. So yes, I knew them well.
Could you have even thought at that point of the career that you would have, ahead? Obviously, no one knows. But the fact that you came to New York, did they come to New York first? Did you come to New York first? How did you all rediscover each other? Or did you remain in touch all those years?
I would say we've remained in touch all those years. I certainly saw Anne at every venue she played, the Tuileries, Le Vergaillant, every step along the way. And certainly Liz too. I first came to New York in 1979 and didn't stick. I actually lasted about 6 months. So I don't know if that might have gotten me here first.
When in 79 did you come to New York?
I came as a freshman at New York University.
No,
I did not. I came as a transfer student in 1979.
That was the year that I moved to New York, and it was a very different New York than what it is now.
Wasn't it wonderful?
That's a whole other
and that's why I've been sober for 10 years.
That's a whole other show. But anyway.
No, I was at NYU, and our classes were at the Actors and Directors Lab, which is now where the Harold Clurman Theater is which is now on, that wonderful Miracle Mile, 42nd Street. But that was all, movie theaters and hookers and.
And when we say movie theaters, everyone, we're not talking about first-run movies. So you said it didn't stick. How long did you last in New York at that time?
I lasted 6 months, and that's, really, that's not a very attractive part of my story, but, I've struggled with addiction all my life. So getting sober 10 years ago was no small feat. It was a huge, wonderful miracle. But the problem really began way back then, in 1979, and I went to treatment. At that point, I was anorexic, and I went to the Cleveland Clinic for 6 weeks, and that was the beginning of it, So it really took me a long time to not only find my voice, but really find my footing in New York City. But I knew it's where I wanted to be. I just, the first time, we lived in all these different houses, but the first time I came to my aunt's New York apartment, I just thought, why wouldn't everyone want to live like this? No lawn to mow, no storm windows to put up, and that view. So yeah, and of course I've always just loved the theater.
So when you left here, you went back to live with your parents, or?
At that point they had moved back to Michigan. So yes, I went back to Michigan and then to the Cleveland Clinic, and then I tried to go to work for a while. So I worked at a theme park that Liz Calloway also worked at, called Marriott's Great America in Gurnee, Illinois. And then I felt ready to come back to New York. So that was in 1983 that I actually got here and stayed. You can't get rid of me.
So let's go back to that point. When you came back to New York, did you have any survival jobs? Where did you live?
Yes. I came back as a student at NYU, so I picked up my education again, and yes, I had survival jobs, and perhaps the most significant one was as a room service waiter at the Regency Hotel on Park Avenue. That I was there. I have kept a journal since I was 15 years old. There are like 49 volumes of this thing. I stopped in 2008. You can all be relieved. But that particular journal, every day I would come home and write down the name of whatever celebrity I had served. And, in room service is different than being in a restaurant because you are alone in the room. Like Carol Channing, I had such a good time serving her dinner. She's the only one I was absolutely speechless, and we were supposed to be speechless, but I was speechless. She opened the door and had a red nib stocking cap on, no wig, and I knew it was her. They always wrote the name of the last name of the guest, and she was, I was helping her serve dinner to guests in her suite.
Now I know that she had some very interesting eating habits.
Yes.
So what would she have when you served her?
Well, I would first, this is interesting. Let me know. So the first thing I had to do was they had ice cream for dessert. So I had to put that in the freezer in her little kitchenette. So when I opened it up, it was just chock-a-block full with those allergy-free foods that she had to eat. So I was tucking in the ice cream. And she came in and I said, just remember that the ice cream is in the freezer. And she said, I remember that forever. And so I came out and was serving the soup, and she turned to whoever her guest was, and she said, Julie Andrews, to drop a name, says soup is the best thing when your throat is bad. So, that was the extent of what I remember about her meal. But I do remember, much like her autobiography said, she had like the steamer trunk things open with photos everywhere. She really did try to make it look like home.
No, it was very interesting. You talked about traveling a lot growing up, but she was always on the road. She had a crew that traveled with her. They would show up in whatever hotel she was in, and they would make each hotel room look similar to what her home was, with photos and everything.
Wow. Well, the real significance of the Regency Hotel job was that the McGuire sisters were there, and that their music is in my DNA. It's just part of what my parents. That's the music that they listened to, and they were there for 6 months because they were doing some sort of advanced work on their comeback, and so I had the opportunity to serve each of the sisters, but in particular Phyllis, the lead singer and the youngest. And we became very friendly.
Mm-hmm.
She thought of me as the room service waiter who knew every lyric to every song that they wrote. So, I mean, the wonderful, miraculous thing about that story is that the hotel laid me off. Those are union waiters that had been there a lifetime, and I was the new kid. And they were in a slump, so they let me go, but they said I could come at any point and get a letter of recommendation. So I showed up on some day, and I went down to the employees area. I picked up my letter of recommendation, and there was Phyllis McGuire down in the employees area, which no guests are ever down there. And I said, Miss McGuire, what are you doing down here? And she said, well, I'm moving out. I got a townhouse on East 75th Street. And I said, well, I'm glad I ran into you because this is my last day. And it was so wonderful to get to meet you and your sisters. And she said, well, why are they letting you go? And I explained that I was low man on the totem pole. And she said, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, come on up and work for me. Come out to the suite right now. I'll put you on the payroll. So she hired me that day. If I had come 5 minutes, either way, different, that wouldn't have happened. I worked for her for 2 years in that townhouse. And then I left my job with her to start pursuing my own career. And 2 years after that, she called from Reno and said, we're reading your review in Variety and you should come open for us. And that's what happened. So it's
an amazing story.
And she's been kind of an angel on my shoulder mentor for all these years.
Well, I was going to ask you that question. If you considered her a mentor, and you just answered the question for me. I mean, what did you learn from her that helped you both professionally and personally as an entertainer and as a person?
There are so many things. It's Alex and I have been talking about, because, I was working with Alex at that time and they needed a New York rehearsal pianist. So, I said, how about this guy, Alex Ryback? He can play anything. So he would be there rehearsing with them. And on their breaks, sometimes they would call and say, Jeff, we're taking 5. Come down and sing us a song. So I'd come down and we would do Alex's arrangement. We did Blue Skies, that I remember most memorably. And when we finished, Phyllis just said, that's the best arrangement of Blue Skies I've ever heard. It's better than ours, right, girls? It's better than Liza's, better than ours. And they were wonderful. But I learned lots of things. And in fact, one of your viewers today is Phyllis Kinsler.
I love. Happy belated birthday, Phyllis.
And I met Phyllis because all these significant Phyllises in my life, but Phyllis McGuire had a routine in her act where she would pull up a stranger from the audience and dedicate a song to them. And she would say, I'm going to sing this song to you and you alone. And I want you to listen to the words, and whatever they inspire you to do, I want you to do that to me here tonight. And so Phyllis told me, steal from the best. So I stole that idea from her. And on a cruise gig, I pulled Phyllis Kinsler out of the audience. I didn't know her at the time, but she just was singing along with me and looked very willing, ready, willing, and able. Her motor was running. And I brought her up and I said, I'm going to sing this song to you and you alone. I want you to listen to the words, whatever they inspire you to do. I want you to do that to me here tonight. And I sang Fever. And she brought down the house. She was frisky as a kitten. And I made my thing was to film the guest that spot and then give them that video at the end of it. So we do actually have our first encounter 18, almost 19 years ago. We have that on film. And that's
that to me. I would have shown it.
But that's one of the things I learned from her. I learned so many things from Phyllis, little things.
But
I'll tell you one that
yes,
some of your listeners might know who have Cabaret. She, as far as pre-show music, she said that the music before your show should have no lyrics, whatever they're playing in the theater, and it should stop 10 minutes before the show. So the audience, but they should not be hearing words. They should not be hearing you. Because one of the places we went, they were playing the McGuire Sisters' greatest hits, and she was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It has to be of the era but no lyrics, and please dial it off 10 minutes before we come on so their ears will be ready to pop when we come out.
So she's really, I mean, you're setting the tone for the evening.
Yes.
Long before you hit the stage.
Yes.
Oh,
She was wonderful. There are lots of fun stories like that. And yes,
No.
I got the no wire hangers ever speech, but she made it make sense. Jeff, you can't take a 500 Givenchy blouse and hang it on a wire hanger. It makes these horrible
little jump in the shoulders.
Yeah, little pinches.
So, but I want to go back to when it began for you in New York, when you first started getting the recognition. What was your first major gig that, for you, put you on the map as far as a New York audience is concerned?
Well, Alex, thank God for Alex. Wasn't that just the luckiest pick of the draw that I started working with him 37 years ago, and he's still with me today.
God bless you.
I mean, that was my dream. The first thing I did when I got to New York in '79 was go to Reno Sweeney's and hear Barbara Cook. Because I had had a subscription to the New Yorker since I was 16, and I just couldn't believe reading the Cabaret listings. Remember Cabaret listings?
God, I remember Reno Sweeney's. Yeah.
But that Barbara Cook was, $7 cover was at Reno Sweeney's all the time, and so that was my dream, was to have someone like a Wally Harper who could help me personalize songs in a way that they would be unique and distinctly my own interpretation. And that I found someone as brilliant as Alex first time out of the gate is astonishing. So, Alex and I just kept doing shows. We just kept doing them. We'd keep 5 songs that worked and we'd add new ones, and keep 5 songs that worked and then add new ones. And
but did you have places that you gravitated towards that gave you a chance to try this material out before you did your first full show?
Did I have
what was the venues in New York, piano bars, in areas that you would go to try it out?
Of course. Well, first of all, I met Alex through Sarah Louise Lazarus. I took her class for singers, which is really about how to personalize songs. She changed my life. She was the one
Saturday night. So, yes, everyone.
The best. I mean, I have had some great teachers along the way. I'm working with one of the best right now, who's Sandra Lee. But we'll get to her. Sarah was just as pivotal because she was the first person. I was 25 or 6, and I came into her class and sang "If I Love Again," and she said, "That's wonderful, but how dare you? How dare you, who look like you're 19, sing "If I Love Again"?" So she was the one who really got me thinking about the words that were coming out of my mouth when I was singing. And that's the most important part, not the voice, but it's really about the message. Am I the right narrator for this song? Are these words believable coming out of my mouth? That was a revelation to me. I know that sounds so fundamental to us now, but I needed to be, really shaken like this. So anyway, Alex and I did do these shows. We did our first show at Paulson's. Back in the days when Forbidden Broadway was there Tuesday through Saturday, we had the coveted Monday night at 11 o'clock slot.
You had an audience?
We did. Yeah, I had enough friends and family from my NYU days that we packed. It was 50 people, but we packed it.
You had them. That's great.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, now that I think about it, Monday night at 11 o'clock.
I made my debut at Don't Tell Mama in November, Saturday night at midnight, and I had an audience.
Well, of course, Saturday night at midnight. Get what Karen Mason when she talks about the 3 a.m. show, where the only people in the audience are the bitter ones that haven't hooked up yet.
Oh my God!
At midnight, they still have hope.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, we played Broadway Baby and a place at O'Henry's, the Lily Langtree Room at O'Henry's. I got a New York Post review there. Mm-hmm. Anyway, to answer your question, the show that was the turning point, I had won a MAC award, and I thought the next show I do might get more attention because I've gotten this award. So I wanted to have a theme, and I want the theme to be something that will be fun. Most of all, I want people to know it's going to be entertaining. And I thought the lyrics of Compton and Green, that's just fun, fabulous, brilliant. Mm-hmm. And because I was paying attention to the words, I realized their words coming out of my mouth would make me look fun and clever and witty. So through one of my dad's work associates, I got connected to a Broadway producer named Barry Brown. And I think he might be watching today. Barry, if you're out there, I love you. Barry was the original producer of the original La Cage aux Folles, the producer of the Tyne Daly revival of Gypsy and the Angela Lansbury revival of Gypsy. He, remarkable career. And so he had a meeting with me, and I said, I'm working on an idea that I have to do a Compton and Green show. And I had never seen the look before, but when a producer sees money, I mean, I saw this look come over his face, and he goes, that's a really good idea, and I'll tell you why. No one's ever done it. They're still alive, so they'll come. It's going to be their 50th anniversary in show business, and a guy doing a cabaret act, this is a really good idea. And he goes, but you should get their permission. And I said, I don't think I need their permission to do a cabaret act. And he said, no, you should get it. Because first of all, they're alive, and that's the respectful thing to do. And second of all, it may open doors for you that you don't even know about if they're on board.
But if he said, interrupt for just a moment, but thank God that Barry had the wherewithal and the knowledge to instill that upon you, because there are so many, with all due respect to some producers, would not have that gravitas or that information to bring to the table. So kudos to Barry.
Yes. Well, it also helped that he was dear friends of theirs, and he was probably looking out for their best interest too. But he said, listen, they can smell a charlatan a mile away. So go off and do your homework. Maybe it'll take you 6 months or so, but when you're ready, I will set up the introduction, which he did. And that's a whole story too, because at first they said no, but then they agreed to take a phone call with me because I was so passionate about it. And then in the course of that phone call, somehow I changed their minds, and they gave us their blessing. Barry brought them. He brought Julie Stein to our opening night. And they did, it was indeed their 50th anniversary in show business together. So I got swept into a tribute to them up at the Berkshire Theater Festival. And I got to sing their induction into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. I ran into Betty right before, and I said, they've given me 5 minutes to encapsulate your entire career. And she just said, good luck. So yeah, that really changed. And also at that time, I made the investment of having a publicist, and that was Peter Cromarty at that time. And he's the one who got the New York Times in the door, and the New York Times changed everything. At that time, that was enough to get me work around the country and on the high seas. Thank God for the cruise industry that really made a lot of the prestige dates, which aren't always lucrative, possible, was to go out and do some singing on the high seas, which was incredible seasoning, no pun intended. But it really, Andrea Marcovicci saw me a couple of years into doing cruise work, and she said, oh my God, she said, you can't fake the kind of seasoning you get when you're playing for crowds of people you don't know, who didn't buy a ticket to see you, who have no reason to stay in that seat. You're a buffet to them. They could get up and go at any point. And if you could hold them as an audience, that's a kind of seasoning that our generation doesn't get the opportunity to have, And I got to play those rooms at the ballroom and at the Algonquin and the Firebird Cafe, where you did, 7 shows a week for multiple weeks. Mm-hmm. It's I can't even believe there was that time.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the 1959 Songbook, because that show was just so phenomenal. And where did the seed for that come from?
Well, I think it actually came from Alex and I were just doing the What If, Betty and Adolph Say No. And I said, I've always been curious to know what shows were on Broadway the year I was born. And that would be, if I did like a 1959 Broadway songbook, that would be another way into doing Betty and Adolph's material. We'd have bells ringing, and that would be another way to get some of their music on our cabaret stage. So that was our backup plan. And as it turned out, the Compton and Green show came first, and then we did go to the Algonquin Hotel, and that was my debut show there, was the 1959 Broadway Songbook. And that's the show I've done the most in my life ever.
And you just brought it back just a year or so ago and did it again.
Yeah. Yes.
When did you start doing the duet shows? I mean, you and the work that you and KT Sullivan bring together, it's magic. And of course, you mentioned earlier Sandra Lee, who is a dear, dear friend. I love her so much. How did that all come together?
I'm thinking my very first duet show. Well, the very first duet show was with KT, and it was a surprise to both she and I. Donald Smith called and said, I'm booking these nights at the Russian Tea Room, and I've booked one for you and KT, and you're going to do Noel Coward. And I said, Donald, I've never sung with KT, and I don't know Noel Coward. And he goes, well, now you will.
Good for him.
Thank you, Donald. Yes. Thank you, Donald. Thank you, Donald.
How did you and Donald Smith meet? Did he come to see one of your shows, or how did you get on his radar?
I got on his radar. Oh, there's no short answer, but when I was a room service waiter, in the employee elevator area, there was a waste bin, and in it was a glossy one sheet of Michael Feinstein. Don't ask me why. I don't know, but it was a publicity sheet, and it was like, for booking, call Michael Feinstein. It was gorgeous. It was this gorgeous piece of publicity material. At the bottom, it said, represented by Donald Smith Promotions, and it had his address. So I just kept sending him my postcards to Broadway Baby and Don't Tell Mama. And one time Andrea Marcovicci was singing for free at the New York Times building. So I went to hear her, and there was Donald Smith. And first of all, the first time I saw Andrea sing was, life-changing. But there was Donald. So I went up afterwards and I said, Mr. Smith, my name is Jeff Harner and I'm the cabaret singer. And he goes, oh, yes. My office knows just who you are. We're keeping a file on you. We will be
the FBI.
We will be in to see you one day. And the person who actually got him to come was David Staller, who I adore and who went to my high school also, a couple years ahead of me. But I knew him from way back in the day. And I ran into David one day and he said, what's holding your career back? And I said, well, I think I need to meet Donald Smith. And he goes, I know him. I'll bring him. And he did. And Donald's first words to me after he saw my show at Don't Tell Mama was, don't ever wear that jacket again. And he was right.
But he knew what he was doing. That's great. That's great. Yeah. And you were in the very first cabaret convention. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you've done every one since then.
Everyone except there were a couple where I was away working, which Donald used to say was his wish. My wish is that nobody would be available, that you'd all be out working. And that happened a couple times, but most of them I've been there.
Now, along the way, I mean, let's talk about some of the directors that you've had along the way. And, we will get to Sandra Lee. And how did the two of you come together?
KT brought, well, first of all, she brought Sandra to see my show, which was very generous and kind of her, because Mary Martin's Peter Pan has so much of everything to do with my love of musical theater, that the magic when I was a child and when television was an appointment that you made. You know,
Mhm.
once a year at Easter time, Mary Martin would fly into the living room, you know, and you had to be there in front of your TV. And I knew that cast album backwards and forwards, and I knew Sandra Lee and Cyril Richard, and you know, and Margalo Gilmore. I loved them all. So to meet Sandra Lee was extraordinary. And then KT had the idea to do a Sondheim show, which I had never touched Sondheim because it seemed to be of a brilliance that just too intimidated me. But KT said, I think we should do this. And what would you think if Sandra directed? Well, you know, I was terrified, but said yes. And that has the dividends of that relationship, the constellation of John Weber, Sandra, KT, and me, and Sondheim. And just last season, we were doing Charles Strauss and Sheldon Harnick together. But that has, boy, did Sandra change my life too as a performer.
You'll get where I'm going with this. Have you and Sandra slept together?
Well, I know her book is called I've Slept with Everybody. And it was published before she met me. So
Here you'll be in the next book. I mean, I love this woman. I mean, she tells it as it is, you know that. And you get sheer honesty from her. And she doesn't put rose-colored glasses on ever.
No.
Best.
And that's kind of her mantra to me, which is tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. It sounds so simple, but for a singer to just get up and tell the truth, state the facts, it's changed me. I mean, Sandra, I could say, gave me the courage to come out on stage. Not that it was any secret, but I was being devilishly clever with pronouns in songs that I chose to sing. I tried never to sing, you know, she, her pronouns. I tried to find the you songs. But Sandra gave me KT said, I think we should not change the pronouns. And I said, I agree, and I'll top you. I don't think you and I should sing a love song to each other because I want the love that I sing about to be to another man. And she was like, oh, you know, KT, she took that idea and ran with it. Oh, I can just think of all the songs I want to sing, you know, Joanna and and the Buddy's Blues. So yeah, that I can't tell you how liberating that has been.
Well, I was going to ask you,
to
Jeff,
sing my truth.
Obviously, a lot has changed since 1979, but the liberation of that, was it a difficult decision for you to go in that direction? Because I mean, I've seen both of those shows, and I love the fact that you have opened it all up to singing the songs as written.
By the time we did it, which you know, the first of these shows was in my sobriety, so it was not difficult because my sobriety has entirely been about I have to be authentically me. I have to tell the truth, or I'm going to end up hurting myself in some way. So the timing was just right. It doesn't seem so brave to do now as it did when I was 30 and, you know, playing the Algonquin. For me to sing my unbridled love for a man, I couldn't do it. I got called out by the Washington Blade in the gay paper in Washington, D.C. When I went down there, they wanted to interview me as an openly gay cabaret singer. And I really went, you know, I was like, you can't call me that. That has nothing to do with the show I'm doing. Yes, but you're openly gay. And I said, well, I'm openly gay to people who know me, but the show has nothing to do with my sexuality. So I'm sorry about that time in my life, but I was a product of what was going on. It was also the height of the AIDS crisis. It was, it was a challenging time to be authentic. Wow, look at last night on the Golden Globes to see Jodie Foster with her wife in their pajamas, declaring their love.
It's a different, it's a completely different world.
It is. There's a lot of wonderful evolution happening.
Now, speaking of evolution, I want to talk about your evolution as a director. We already know you're a brilliant entertainer. How did that begin for you? Did you reach out to someone, or did someone reach out to you? And was there any resistance to doing that at first?
No resistance is the easy answer to that. It's innately in me to want to be helpful to people. Again, it's a gift of my sobriety, because in sobriety, we learn that we can only stay sober by helping other people get sober and stay sober. So as a director, I can only help other singers. I can only do better myself as a singer if I'm actively trying to help other singers. It's and I can't make a suggestion to another singer if it's not a path that I'm actively trying to walk myself. I won't suggest a tool that I haven't tried myself and that works for me, and you can try it on or not. And the definition of directing just totally changed. I think of it more as being a guide. I'm just a guide. I am there to get, to help you get your best voice to come through, your clearest message, the straightest, let's fire the arrow and get the straightest line of, what your trajectory is with this project. And I'll help you try and get some of these other things out of the way. I don't think I could have been a director any earlier, because it wouldn't, I hate to say this about myself, but I don't think it would have occurred to me to be of service to someone else. It's so terrible, but I hate to say that, but I think I was just so self-involved and self-serving that it would never have occurred to me that I could give back in that way. And, in recovery, we give back without expecting anything in return. So yes, there is remuneration involved, which I appreciate. But beyond that, what I get in return is so profoundly deep. And it has changed me as a performer. It's helped me crystallize what my choices are, when I see a singer who can't seem to grab a lyric and make it their own, well, that means, where am I not doing that? Where, it's wonderful. It has totally reframed my creative life. So yes, and to answer your question, Anna Bergman asked me to help her first, but the first actual show I directed was Judy Mark, who may be watching. And then, I've just been so lucky to work with people like Rita Gardner, and I won't even start down the path. I will leave people out. Sure.
Looking at the overall arc of your career in New York as an entertainer and as a director, a lot of changes have taken place in this business, some for the best and some for the worst. What are some of the changes that you really have embraced, and what are some of the changes that you still resist?
Oh, well, right now I'm having, let's start with the Ethernet cable. Let's start with the Ethernet cable. I do not have an Ethernet cable, so I am not Jam Kazam eligible. And it's not that I'm resisting it. I just don't feel compelled to run into it. But I understand that these things are part of what needs to be embraced. What Zoom has done for my life that is how I continue to direct and to coach during the pandemic. So those are things that I definitely embrace. I have yet to try Twitter. I'm an infant. I'm an infant in Instagram. I'm pretty facile at Facebook, but I'm trying my moxie on MailChimp. I earnestly e-blast, but anyway, it's there's a lot of room for growth. And again, working for Tova, she's she's a decade ahead of me in life experience, but she is miles ahead of me in her technical acumen. She's just learning. Something new comes in, she wants to master it.
I just interviewed her a couple of weeks ago on the book, but I had the opportunity to interview her several years ago when she did Dolly at the Paper Mill Playhouse, and I was just blown away at the amount of research that she puts into a character and the character development. I mean, she had a whole history of Dolly that I'm sure that Thornton Wilder never even thought of.
Yes.
Just amazing.
Yes, that's her.
I'm reading a great book now called Real Artists Don't Starve. And I'm on a chapter right now about collaboration. And you and I both know it takes a village. I want to ask you, looking back and looking forward as well, some of the collaborations that have really shaped you as you are today.
Well, there was the collaboration that I shared earlier between me and three sisters.
Mm-hmm.
The McGuire sisters was a profound collaboration, both, cleaning her house and playing her house. The collaboration of Sarah Louise Lazarus, Alex Rybeck, and myself, I think we did 7 or 8, maybe 9 shows together in those years where, the Algonquin would just want you back with a brand new show. Those, working with Barry Kleinbort, I have worked with 3 really great directors, Sarah Louise Lazarus, Barry Kleinbort, and Sandra Lee. And what I've learned from each of them is just priceless. So that's so valuable to me. You talked about duet shows. I have a collaboration with Shauna Hicks that we did a Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland show that started as a little tiny
to the CD. Just
well,
a show.
That's the Cabaret dream, because we started at the Firebird with 70-seat room, James Followell at the piano, Barry Kleinbort directing, Shauna and me, and it morphed into a full 2-act symphony orchestra concert that we've done with like 8 or 9 symphony orchestras, and we've done it at Town Hall. So that it literally is like Mickey and Judy come to life. Let's put on a show, and it happened on a scale that we didn't even imagine when we started. And I am, I'm the godfather to her son, who was born on Judy Garland's birthday. So the collaboration of me with Shauna and her family is a chosen family that I'm very grateful for. And Shauna and I were singing waiters together at Mrs. J's Sacred Cow, which was another survival job before the Regency Hotel. And I've done duet shows with Sally Mays, but it's the duet shows with KT that are right now, the most vibrant in my life, because I just love what she brings out in me. I really do. I feel so safe to take risks and explore, so supported when I'm on stage, so dazzled by the work she does. She's such an actress. Her voice is terrific. But what goes on, and to be there with Sandra and John Weber, Alex is one of the great arrangers and great, their compositions, they're just so beautiful. With John, he's such a profound jazz musician. It's really like stepping up to a white canvas and saying, this is the texture I'm thinking about, and this is sort of what I'm feeling. And then he just comes up with these things, and they're not the same every night. There's such an active conversation going on about what he's doing. I suppose jazz singers dive into that. For me, it's pretty new. And it's extraordinary to have Sandra saying "Tell the Truth," to have KT up there supporting me to tell the truth, and to have John make that happen musically. There's just in real time thing about it that's just delightful.
Well, Jeff, you're delightful, and but we're at the end of our show.
Oh, and I found out so little about you. As Barry Kleinbord says, the two words that you'll never hear coming out of my mouth, and you?
This is about you. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. And if you did, and if you don't mind, please go to my website, richardskipper.com. Sign my guest book with your thoughts about the show if you haven't done so already. I want to let everyone know that tomorrow afternoon, keeping the cabaret theme going, we're going to be celebrating Cabaret Month with the DC Cabaret Network and all the work that they're doing now, before the pandemic, and coming out of the pandemic. And I also end every show by asking everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list. The first name that pops up, pick up the phone and call them. Not with a text message, not with an email, not with a text or a private message, a phone call, and let them know what they mean to you. As our dear friend David Friedman says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And we're going to end the show where we began, with a performance from Jeff. Don't worry, you're not going to perform live right now, but it's one of my favorite performances, and I wanted to share this with everyone today. Jeff, before we go there, however, I'm going to give you the final word. Anything that you want to say about anything that we talked about that you want to expound upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message that you want to put out to anyone who's watching right now. And thank you for all that you do. I'm a huge fan. Thank you.
No, you're the one. You are the one who is the embodiment of giving back, of giving without expecting in return. That is you, Richard Skipper. You what you have carved out for yourself, and how it feeds the cabaret community, the theater community. It's extraordinary. And I've loved your work on stage and off stage, from Dolly to your one-man show. So I will leave you with a quote from, since I've talked about recovery, Oscar Wilde said, "Every saint has a past and every sinner has a future."
I love that. And speaking of saints and sinners, you decide.
I've got your number.
Everybody, chic or shoddy, everybody loves to dance. Since that big dance, infradig dance, called the Can-Can, captivated France. Why does it kill every care? Why is it done everywhere? There is no trick to a can-can. It is so simple to do. When you once kick to a can-can, 'twill be so easy for you. If a lady in Iran can, if a shady African can, if in can every tan courtesan can, baby, you can too. If an English Dapper Dan can, if an Irish Callahan can, if an Afghan and Afghanistan can, baby, you can too. Takes no art to do a can. It is so simple to do. When you start to do a can, 'twill be so easy for you. If a slow Mohammedan can, if a kilted Scottish clan can, if in Wagner a Valkyrian can, baby, you can too. If a lass in Michigan can, if an ass in Astrakhan can, if a bass in the Saskatchewan can, baby, you can too. If in Deauville every swell can, it is so simple to do. If Debussy and Ravel can, 'twill be so easy for you. If the Louvre custodian can, if the guard Republic can. If Van Gogh and Matisse and Cézanne can, baby, you can too. If a chief in the Sudan can, if the hefty Aga can, if the camels in his caravan can, baby, you can. If the waltz king Johann Strauss can, it is so simple to do. If his gals in Fledermaus can, 'twill be so easy for you. Lovely Duse in Milan can, Lucien Guitry and Réjean can, Sarah Bernhardt upon a divan can, baby, you can too. If a holy Hindu man can, if a gangly Anglican can, if in Lesbos a pure lesbian can, baby, you can. If an ape gargantuan can, it is so simple to do. If a clumsy pelican can, 'twill be so easy for you. If a dachshund in Berlin can, if a tomcat in Pekin can, if a crowded sardine in a tin can, baby, you can too. If a rhino with a crash can, if a hippo with a splash can, if an elm and an oak and an ash can, baby, you can, you can, you can too.